be able to access interpretation. I love that folks are introducing themselves in the chat. That's awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. We have almost 500 people signed up for today's event. I think we have about 300 or more people here already, which is amazing. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. So let's take a minute just to kind of center ourselves. Everybody can sort of take a deep breath. Think about how we're fortunate to be here sharing virtual space together. We've been through about 14 months of a pandemic together, and it's been very challenging, but we've been there with each other every step of the way, which has been incredible. This event is the fruits of our labors, of our entire coalition and of the MIRA staff who made this happen. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Today we're on a webinar, which means that you can see our panelists, but not the other attendees. Because it's a huge meeting, we just thought that would be the best way to handle it. As I said, we have over 300 people here today already, which is amazing, and it's 11:11. We know that our people sometimes are a little late to things, but we're super grateful for your participation today. Again, reminder, we do have interpretation if you're just not joining us. Please access that by going to the globe icon on your screen. If you don't see that, click on the 3 dots, and then you'll see the globe icon and select your language. If you're an English speaker, you can select English, or if you prefer Spanish or Portuguese, please click on those things. Lastly, if you have Twitter, if you're on Twitter, please live tweet today's event using the hashtag #ImmigrantsDayMA. Let's try to get trending this year. We've been trending the past 4 years in a row. Let's try to make that happen again this year. And with that, I would like to start our speaking program. I want to pass it to my colleague and our leader, Eva Malona, who is the president and CEO of MIRA. She'll get us started. Thank you so much. Welcome, Eva.
Thank you, Joel. Welcome everyone to MIRA's signature Advocacy Day, 25th Annual Immigrants Day at the State House. I wish we were in person, but we will do the best that we can of this opportunity. It fills me with so much gratitude and so much pride to have you all with us this morning. I like to extend my heartfelt thanks to my colleagues at MIRA for making this event possible, and led by our wonderful Director of Organizing, Joel Rivera. I also would like to recognize the many MIRA members here with us today. You are the true heroes, the heart and the soul of this coalition. Thank you so very much for your presence today, and thank you for all that you do every day. We are also thrilled to welcome the Honorable Mayor Kim Janey as our keynote speaker today, and congratulate her on making history as the first Black person and the first woman to lead the city of Boston as its mayor. A warm welcome to Senator William Brownsberger, Chair of the Redistricting Committee, and Leader Ruth Balser, our fearless lead co-sponsor of the Safe Communities Act. Thank you so very much for standing with us always. And of course, thank you to our outstanding leaders, Gabriel Camacho and Dalida Rocha, who you will hear very shortly. My colleague Joel said it. It has been an exhausting 12 months since our last Immigrants Day. We experienced loss, we experienced pain, but we also witnessed the strength and the resilience of immigrant communities. Immigrants have been critical during the crisis, keeping food on our tables, caring for the sick, and playing a vital role in the development of the vaccine. Today, it's all about them and making sure that as we move towards recovery, immigrants are heard, immigrants are supported and appreciated. There is no recovery without immigrants, my friends. Thanks to
Não tem recuperação sem os imigrantes.
And tireless advocacy.
Muito obrigada pela defesa sem
It
cessar
secured millions of
do
dollars in funding to address
incansável
food and
do poder
housing insecurity,
legislativo,
directed
que
resources for
foi os
linguistic
recursos
integration
que
and
foram
citizenship programs
dirigidos
across Massachusetts, and strengthened services for domestic violence and sexual assault survivors. We established programs that revitalize the immigrant workforce and address the public health needs of our communities. We advocated for an equitable vaccine rollout centered on those who have been most impacted by the crisis, and we have started to see real progress.
e a gente começou com esse progresso, tem progresso muito.
This is what a true equity agenda looks like, but there is still so much at stake. Our advocacy today is essential for continuing to build inclusive systems to ensure our Commonwealth is safe and welcoming for all people. I want to urge you to keep fighting for the passage of the Safe Communities Act and the Work and Family Mobility Act. Both bills are critical to our recovery from COVID-19. These are basic rights, not luxuries. They are crucial to the safety and well-being of immigrants across the Commonwealth. Last session, we came closer than ever before to passing them, and we have to get it done this year. Again, to our members, thank you for your incredible work. To our advocates joining us today, thank you for adding your voices to these urgent campaigns. Together, we can make our message heard far and wide. There is no COVID recovery without immigrants. And at this time, it is my distinct privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, the Honorable Mayor of Boston, Kim Janey. A fourth-generation Roxbury resident, Mayor Janey comes from a long line of educators, entrepreneurs, activists, and advocates, and has deep roots in advocacy community. She was the first woman to represent District 7, and in 2020, she was elected by her peers as the president of the Boston City Council. Here at MIRA, we are deeply grateful that Mayor Janey committed to advancing an equity agenda for Boston from the moment she took office. We are proud to be collaborating with the city on the bilingual community outreach program, and we are eager to continue to partner to deliver on her equity agenda. Mayor Janey knows this fundamental truth. There is no COVID-19 recovery without immigrants, especially in the city where almost 30% of the population is foreign-born. She recognizes the role that immigrants have played throughout the crisis. It truly means so much to all of us in the MIRA community to know that we have a champion for immigrants' rights at the City Hall. Mayor Janey, so honored to have you with us. Please take it away.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? Yes, great. Thank you so much, Ava, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you for your leadership and your advocacy. I want to thank the entire MIRA Coalition for your work on this 25th Annual Immigrants Day at the State House. I'm really grateful for all that you do. I also want to acknowledge our elected officials, State Senator William Brownsberger, who is here, and State Representative Ruth Balser. I believe we're also joined by my sister in service, Liz Miranda, State Representative Miranda. So I definitely want to shout her out as well. It is certainly a pleasure to be here. Before I go on, I want to also acknowledge the director of the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement, someone on my team who is a dear friend who does incredible work in this space, and that's Yusufi Valley. So wanted to just acknowledge him as well. And certainly to our other folks who have done incredible work. My dear friend, Dalida, who I spent, it seems like all day yesterday with, just grateful to you. She's the political director of SCIU 32BJ, and Gabe Camacho, who is the political director at UFCW 1445. I really appreciate all of that you do to advance immigrants in our city and for representing their voices today. The theme, as you've heard, is no recovery can happen without immigrants. And that is so important to my own story growing up here in the city of Boston. I grew up in Roxbury, a neighborhood rich with immigrants from various points of the African diaspora. In fact, almost 30% of Roxbury residents today are born outside of the US. 18% of Roxbury's residents speak Spanish, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, Cape Verdean Creole, and Chinese. My Nana, my father's mother, was first generation Guyanese American. And I grew up with neighbors who came from Jamaica, Haiti, Trinidad, St. Vincent, and other places. Boston truly is a city of immigrants. You are a vital part of our city's culture and economy. You make Boston the vibrant global city that it is, and you are at the center of how we deliver key city services. And this is why MIRA is so important as a partner and a leading organization for immigrant and refugee communities. Their push for equity through the Vaccine Equity Now Coalition has raised awareness of the racial inequities surrounding the COVID-19 vaccine throughout the Commonwealth. This work has helped Boston with its vaccine outreach in immigrant communities. In the midst of the pandemic, MIRA also partnered with the Boston Public Health Commission, the Office of Workforce Development, and the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement to create a bilingual community outreach health worker program. The program employs immigrants who are currently underemployed or in jobs outside of their fields for a 6-month period of service as outreach workers to immigrant communities disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The goal of the program is to serve as a pathway into the medical field or public health for these professionals who have been trained in their countries of their origin. In the first pilot phase of this program, MIRA helped the Boston Public Health Commission recruit 5 bilingual community outreach workers who speak Spanish, English, Haitian Creole, Arabic, Vietnamese, and Mandarin. The outreach workers completed 18 hours of training prior to beginning their outreach. And I'm very proud to announce that the Boston Public Health Commission and MIRA just recently partnered up again to launch a second phase of this program with support from the Neighborhood Jobs Trust. This 6-month program will train and employ 8 bilingual community health outreach workers to assist BPHC with crucial public health outreach and education in immigrant and minority neighborhoods of Boston that have been hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Program participants will receive career coaching, education guidance, job search support from MIRA. And this program and partnership is the first of its kind in New England. My hope is that many cities and towns across Massachusetts will replicate this model. MIRA's advocacy at the state level for the Safe Communities Act, which bars police and court officers from inquiring about immigration status, is also critical to vaccine equity and equity in general in the city of Boston. Certainly fear of being detained or questioned without proper consent has actually kept some of our immigrant community away from getting the life-saving vaccine, and we cannot have that happen. I also support MIRA's involvement with the Driving Families Forward Coalition and its effort to pass the Work and Family Mobility Act. This legislation will extend eligibility to driver's license for all qualified state residents, regardless of immigration status. It's important for people to have access to transportation that will get them to work, home, and school. And it's also important to have identification. The protection of immigrant rights to education, housing, and well-being is a central priority for our citywide agenda of recovery, reopening, and renewal. And as mayor, I am committed to the economic and social empowerment of our city's immigrant populations. My administration is creating a Boston where equity and inclusion is at the center of everything we do. And that certainly includes immigrants in our city, because there is no recovery without immigrants. This past year, we launched Immigrants Leads Boston, a course on how the city and the budget works. This year, we funded a full-time coordinator to grow and expand the program. Another priority is to promote equitable access to the vaccine for Boston's immigrant residents. Right now, we have mobile vaccination sites that are meeting people where they are across the city, and that means going into neighborhoods and partnering with people who have trusted relationships in our communities. The strategy works in partnership with immigrant and community-based organizations, and we have a vaccine equity line, and we are now scheduling appointments with cards, and there are a lot of sites that also have walk-in appointments available. In my very first week as mayor of Boston, I announced the Vaccine Equity Grant Initiative to create equitable access and break down barriers to access for Boston residents disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. And this funding targets specific racial and ethnic communities, specific neighborhoods where additional vaccination support and access is needed. Earlier in April, I announced the HOPE campaign. And hopefully you have seen the ads that are up featuring diverse people speaking a variety of languages across billboards and social media and in print. These ads are designed to inspire our communities of color, our immigrant communities who are disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 and provide information so that people can make informed choices about the vaccine. The HOPE campaign lets every Boston resident know that the vaccine is their shot at hope. It encourages Boston residents to get more information and to get the vaccine. The HOPE campaign speaks to the heart of what has been missing in our lives over the past year, and that is hope. And it shows how life can be better if we get vaccinated and how resilient we really are as a community. My administration will continue to work with Boston Public Schools to help immigrant students regain any loss due to this year plus of remote learning and being out of the classroom caused by the pandemic. And we'll do this by investing in immigrant youth of color with programs on education and leadership and job readiness. This summer, there will be the first ever Dreamer Summer Fellowship. 200 young people will receive work readiness experience while earning a stipend. And I'm so excited about this program, which makes use of public dollars to support the most vulnerable of our city's population, and one of the first in the nation. We will develop new employment opportunities and support for immigrant workers. This year's budget, the FY22 budget, is funding a pilot program for Black immigrants professionally trained in their native countries. And Boston is taking 10 people and putting them into internships in the medical field to enable them to get jobs. Once again, this is one of the first in the nation. This very important work of supporting immigrant communities will not only take place in the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement, but in also other city departments like the Department of Economic Development. And under the leadership of Chief Morikawa, the department will develop and support programs and services for Boston families, children, and youth who are not eligible for federal relief and other public assistance benefits due to inequitable immigration policies that hurt our immigrant population. These are exclusionary practices that prevent them from thriving in the American workforce, and we are working on addressing that issue here in the city of Boston. I will continue to advocate for progressive statewide legislation that promotes immigrant integration and well-being, and I wholeheartedly endorse mobilizing office holders and public safety officials and other leaders in efforts to keep our immigrant communities safe well into the recovery. I thank everyone again for the opportunity to be with you today. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful for all of the work that you do to advance this important cause, because certainly there can be no recovery without immigrants. And I am here to offer my full support as the mayor of Boston. I'm just grateful for all that you do and your continued leadership and advocacy in this space. So thank you so much for everything and the opportunity to speak with you this morning.
Thank you so much, Mayor Janey, for your powerful and generous words, but for your leadership. We are so honored to have you with us and looking forward to partnering and working with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Janey. We really appreciate your kind words. Immigrant communities and people of color definitely have a strong advocate in Boston, in you. We're especially grateful for your focus on racial equity and vaccine equity, which are both so important to the Boston immigrant community. Our next speaker is a longtime friend of the Commonwealth's immigrant and refugee communities, a partner on redistricting, which we've done so much work on, and we have our very first hearing today at 5 o'clock for CD5, or CD4, I apologize. I'd like everyone to please welcome Senator William Brownsberger, Senate President Pro Tempore, and Senate Chair of the Special Joint Committee on Redistricting. That is a mouthful. Thank you so much, Senator Brownsberger, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be with you. I'm grateful for the work that MIRA does every day as a wonderful partner on making sure that we are doing everything we need to do for the immigrant community, whether it's in the redistricting process, whether it's in the census process, work and family mobility, safe communities, or the whole range of things that we need to do to make sure that immigrants get through the pandemic okay. And I want to say how pleased I am to follow our new mayor, and I greatly appreciate her emphasis on inclusion and equity. And I'm looking forward to partnering with her, or continuing to partner with her over the weeks and months to come and years to come to further that agenda. I want to say thank you to all the immigrants, so many of whom who have been on the front lines as we come through this pandemic, whether it's in retail, grocery, hospitals, delivery, or as Eva said, in vaccine development, or at the top levels of our healthcare response. I think that the immigrant community has been especially hard hit, partly as a result of being on the front lines, both in terms of the pandemic itself, Everett and Chelsea, and we're so concerned to keep pouring resources into those communities so that the testing, the vaccination, the treatment is all there for everybody who needs it. And also, we know that many immigrants are also employed in some of the businesses that have been hardest hit, the retail, the restaurants, the hospitality, the small businesses. So a lot of people out of work in those businesses, and a lot of those folks are immigrants. And so we're especially concerned to make sure that everybody has access to the relief that people need. Not everybody, as the mayor pointed out, has access to the federal programs that are providing, that are keeping so many households afloat, the unemployment insurance and other direct economic aid, the stimulus checks and so forth. So we need to make sure that everybody who's doesn't have access to those programs does get the relief that they need. Housing, keeping people in their homes, no evictions, keeping people fed, making sure that the food programs are out there so that everybody can get through this pandemic together. And I want to say, as we look to what I think is going to be a new normal, we would need to make sure that everybody stays in the boat, that everybody has a place in that new normal economy. Because I personally am of the view that, we're not going to say goodbye to COVID anytime soon. And that means we're not going to say goodbye to some of the changes that it's made in the way people work and the way people, where people are. People are not downtown in businesses, patronizing businesses in the same way they were before. I don't really think that's going to come back soon. So we need to make sure that everybody, and that includes immigrants especially, because they have been hard hit through this pandemic, that everybody has a place in the new economy. So that's something I'm going to be giving a lot of attention to. I know that I bring the greetings of the Senate as a whole. bring the greetings of the Senate President. We have your back. We have you in mind. We're thinking about you every day, and working with MIRA, Mayor, our other wonderful colleagues who are here, all the legislators, this new Speaker Mariano. We have immigrants very much in mind, and I'm very grateful to have you to be here with you today. And I thank you for including me.
Thank you so much, Senator Brownsberger, for your invaluable support for all of our advocacy efforts over the years. I'd like to welcome our next speaker, Dalida Rocha, Political Director of the Service Employees International Union 32BJ, a MIRA member and a union representing property service workers in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire. That's also a leader in the immigrant justice movement. Dalida also is one of the co-leaders of the Driving Families Forward Coalition. Welcome, Dalida.
Gracias, Joel. Thank you. My name is Dalida Rocha, Political Director for 32BJ SEIU in the Greater Boston, Rhode Island, and Southern New Hampshire area. This region is only one part of 32BJ, which represents 175,000 building service workers from Boston to Miami. Our size makes us one of the largest unions in America with majority immigrant membership. In Massachusetts, our union includes Salvadorian janitors, Haitian security officers, Somali airport workers, as well as immigrant staff members like me. I came to Massachusetts with my family from Cabo Verde when I was 15 years old. That's why I'm here today. For 32BJ, the fight for immigrant rights is also a fight for our families and our communities. As part of that fight, I am proud to co-chair the Driving Families Forward Coalition along with Dr. Natalicia Tracy, Executive Director of the Brazilian Workers Center. The coalition brings together 200 organizations and community leaders to pass the Work and Family Mobility Act, a bill that would let Massachusetts residents apply for a driver's license regardless of their immigration status. The law would change the lives of 200,000 residents of Massachusetts without official immigration status. These immigrants often called undocumented, but they have plenty of documents proving who they are. They have passport, leases, bills, and tax documents. What they don't have is the right to drive to work, to the grocery store, and to their children's schools and doctors. Immigrants and their allies have been trying to change this law for over 10 years. But 2 years ago, Driving Families Forward Coalition began that fight again. It was a dark time for immigrants' rights in America in general. Massachusetts voters did not support President Trump's attacks on immigrants, but our state laws put people into the federal deportation system every day. The news radio station WGBH found that in 2019, the same year that our coalition was formed, police statewide issued more than 20,000 violations for unlicensed driving. This is the second most criminal offense in Massachusetts courts, according to Harvard Law School. A lot has changed in America since 2019. We have a new president in Congress, but the deportations have not stopped. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, denying privilege to immigrants, driving privilege to immigrants without status, forced workers to take crowded public transportation or to share crowded rides. Also, without the ability to drive, many immigrants outside of Greater Boston can't get tested, vaccinated, they can't protect their families, themselves, and their communities. Last year, the Driving Family Mobility Act, the bill passed favorably out of the Transportation Committee for the first time ever. This year, the newly filed Work and Family Mobility Act has over 101 co-sponsors, more than half of the entire State House, and we need your help to convince legislators to make this bill unstoppable. I want to thank MIRA for making this bill a priority, along with Safe Communities Act, another crucial bill to stop Massachusetts from participating in unnecessarily deportation of our immigrants. You can help by speaking to your legislators today and telling them their stories and how this bill can help you and in turn help all of us. So thank you for your support, and thank you, MIRA, for inviting me to be here today.
Thank you so much, Dalida, for sharing those words. Thank you for your leadership in advancing what is to us basic justice and inclusion for everyone, including essential workers who keep our state moving. even during a pandemic, or should I say, especially during a pandemic. Now I want to invite our next speaker, Gabriel Camacho, or Don Gabriel, as I like to call him. He's a mentor of mine, political director of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, Local 1445, also a MIRA member, and another union representing immigrant workers in an essential industry. Maybe you're sensing a theme here in essential workers and the COVID pandemic. Gabe is one of the most well-known and respected advocates for immigrant communities here in Massachusetts, a longtime leader in both the immigrant rights and labor justice movement, and someone who's been working on safe communities since it was the Trust Act. So I'll pass it to Gabe now to share his remarks.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Gabe.
Okay, good. Good morning. Well, as I said to Eva Malona weeks ago, truly honored to be selected to speak here, and especially in the company of Representative Ruth Balser and my own Senator Williams Brownsberger, and of course my sister in struggle, Dalida Rocha, and of course, Mayor Kim Janey, who on May 1st visited our Stop and Shop in Jamaica Plain. So, and it's great that that today is a day sandwiched between one of my two favorite days in the world. May 1st and tomorrow, which is El Cinco de Mayo. So I'm very delighted that that's happening. By way of background, the Secure Communities Act had its many antecedents, including the Trust Act. Many of you were part of local organizing efforts. These efforts included municipal ordinances, executive orders, resolutions, and policy directives that would limit local law enforcement entanglement with federal immigration authorities, especially ICE. However, these local policies were all over the place. Some had real teeth, others were symbolic, yet they had one thing in common: recognizing the basic humanity of immigrants, and in doing so, recognizing our responsibility as residents and voters. In 2021, the Safe Communities Act is so crucial, not only to restore trust with local law enforcement, but with the entire government itself writ large. We have seen over the decades, especially in the last 4 years, how government no longer serves the people. We must make government at every level work for the people, and not only in the prison industrial complex, nor for contractors building useless billion-dollar walls. We cannot just decry and denounce the racist and xenophobic policies of the Trump administration and not get our own house in order. The Secure Communities Act will do here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is what it's already been happening in scores of towns and cities, and that is disentanglement between local law enforcement and ICE. The Secure Communities Act would standardize those policies. In fact, that scores of towns and cities in Massachusetts have their own local Secure Communities Act policies show that there is support and popular voters, supporting these pieces of legislation. So our elected legislators need not be shy to represent the interests of their own constituents when it comes to this issue. Indeed, if the opposition asks us about status, our answer should be, our status is that we are workers, we are union members, we are students, we are mothers, we are fathers, we are daughters, sons, husbands, wives, significant others. And during a global pandemic, we have to build this Commonwealth to a brighter future. And that includes all of us. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Don Gabriel, for your longstanding leadership and commitment to the immigrant community here in our state. Our last speaker needs little to no introduction to the MIRA members and allies. She's our lead House sponsor of the Safe Communities Act, which Gabe just gave us great words on. A well-known leader in the Jewish community and a committed ally of our immigrant and refugee communities. Please welcome our distinguished representative from Newton, State Representative Ruth Balser, House 2nd Division Chair.
Thank you so much for your welcome. It's wonderful to be here on this 25th Advocacy Day. Wonderful to celebrate the immigrant community and wonderful to stand with all the other leaders you just heard from, the elected leaders and the community organizers with whom we wouldn't get anything done without their leadership. You know, there's good news. As I was getting ready today to join you, I opened my iPad and saw that on the front page of the Boston Globe, President Biden has lifted that god-awful inhumane cap that the previous occupant of the White House had put on refugees. Once again, we have someone in the, or I don't know about once again, but today we have someone in the White House who wants this country to remember that it's supposed to be a safe and welcoming place for immigrants and refugees. And that's what we want to do here in Massachusetts. Why we want the Safe Communities Act which to pass is because we want to say that Massachusetts is a safe and welcoming home for immigrants and refugees. We recognize what the essential work that the immigrant community has provided most recently during this awful global pandemic, but that was nothing new. For generations, it's always been immigrants who've stepped up and done the essential work that we in this country need. And the Safe Communities Act would make sure that people in the immigrant community wouldn't have to be worried about getting tested for COVID. They wouldn't have to be worried to go and get their vaccination. They wouldn't have to worry that someone's gonna, talk to ICE and let them know something about themselves or someone in their family. We want people to feel safe. And so we want to pass a bill that says there'll be no local or state involvement with federal immigration enforcement. We're so happy that last session, for the first time, this bill passed the committee, the Joint Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. I'm very hopeful that my colleagues in the legislature will follow the lead of our president, who wants a path to citizenship for all the people in this country without documents. And in the meantime, because he has a little problem with the Congress and some of the politics nationally, in the meantime, let's Massachusetts do what we've always done, which is led the way and say that we will not have local or state participation in federal immigration. We want our community, the people we cherish, who have done so much for us during this pandemic and other times, to feel safe and welcome. Let me just conclude by drawing on my own personal experience. As a Jewish American, I feel so strongly. I have, along with others in my community, the historical memory of this country closing its doors when the Jews of Europe needed refuge and sanctuary. And so many of us feel never again, Never again will we keep people out who need to be safe and need to be welcome. And so I promise you, I will do all I can to get the Safe Communities Act passed and to work with all of my partners, all 351 of you who are here today, and all your friends and network. Make sure to check and see whether your rep has signed on to our bill. We've got about 75 House sponsors. If your rep isn't one of them, call them and tell them you want them to sign on and be a co-sponsor, because this is the session we're going to get it done. Thanks for having me, and have a wonderful day now as you go into your breakout rooms.
Thank you so much, Rep. Balser, for that. Thank you for your passionate advocacy on behalf of our communities. We're super fortunate to have you in House leadership on this bill. Again, thank you to Senator Brownsberger for your leadership in the Senate, Mayor Kim Janey for your leadership in the city of Boston, and of course to our two immigrant community leaders, Dalida Rocha and Gabe Camacho. As you were leading us, Rep. Balser, this now concludes our speaking program. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending this part of our event. But please don't go anywhere, because now it's your turn to speak out, to tell your story and to advocate for our communities. We are now going to go into the second part of today's event, which is the regional breakout groups. So we've broken folks up into 5 regions. Greater Boston, Central and Metro West, Western Massachusetts, the northeastern part of the state, and the southeastern part of the state. So if you are in Greater Boston, you will stay right here. You will not go